Meanwhile, analysts examined the pipe bomb that nearly destroyed Spokane's Planned Parenthood clinic.
That bomb caused unbelievable damage to Planned Parenthood. The director of Planned Parenthood from New York came out and said this was the worst bombing that had ever happened from a Planned Parenthood clinic.
The bomb was wrapped with buckshot. This made it more deadly, but also more identifiable. Most buckshot is made from recycled car batteries, which makes for a lot of impurities, all of which can be identified. FBI analyst Kathleen Lundy took shavings from the buckshot found at the bomb site. These shavings are dissolved in a neutral chemical solution. This solution is then vaporized at extremely high temperatures. The rate of vaporization is then fed to a computer, which identifies the buckshot's basic chemical components.
Over 180,000 attacks on women clinics.
Levels of these impurities, and the chemical or elemental makeup of this buckshot was, I'd say, distinctive compared to others that I've analyzed.
If this buckshot could be traced, investigators might get a lead on the bombers' identities. But then, a solid lead came from informants anxious to receive the reward.
One of the people that the Phineas priests, or that this gang of people had
Religious
tried to recruit
extremists.
Into their gang, decided that he wanted that money and contacted authorities and pointed out the men to them.
Right-wing religious
The informant
extremists.
identified 3 men, Vern J. Morrell, Robert Berry, and Charles Barbie, all living in Sandpoint, Idaho. The informant had one more piece of information. The trio was planning their next bank hit for October 8th. The target, a U.S. bank branch in Portland, Oregon. The FBI immediately began background checks and surveillance on the 3 men.
Terrorize women's
Found
clinics
that Morrell, 51,
and bank robbers.
trained as a nuclear engineer, left his career and
These were
moved to
women's
Idaho
clinics.
to devote all his time to the Phineas priesthood.
Over 150,000 terrorist
Barry, 42,
attacks
owned a struggling truck repair
by religious
shop and spent
extremists.
most of his time and money on anti-government activities. Barbie, 44, had quit his job at AT&T years earlier. Investigators suspected he might be the bomber in this surveillance image. Records indicated Barbie was 5 feet 6 5/8 inches tall, fractions away from analysts' estimate of the bomber's actual height.
They painted religious
On October
verses
8th,
on the
men
walls
who were being watched by investigators
of
using
clinics they bombed.
long-distance surveillance equipment loaded their vehicle with automatic rifles and grenade launchers and left for Portland.
and threatening letters.
Before the trio arrived in Portland, FBI officials called the U.S. Bank branch and told them to lock their doors.
And they caught him in a
Agents
shootout.
watched as the trio waited outside the bank in their van.
They saw people going up to the doors, shaking the doors, but nobody was getting in. So the bank got a phone call that said, "Are you open?" And they said no. We assume it was from a cell phone inside the vehicle.
Stymied in their plans, the men drove away.
Thieves and terrorists
Agents followed them in the air
over
and
embryos.
on the ground. And when the men stopped for gas in Yakima, Washington, police swooped in for the arrest.
They would have been prepared for anything. Had we tried to stop them on the highway and they were going to have a shooting,